Hey, it's Dr. McLean with Vital Energy Chiropractic. It's something that you're starting to hear more commonly in the medical literature, in the research, and also in the news is something called sympathetic dominance. And maybe you've heard about the parasympathetic nervous system versus the sympathetic nervous system. And there are two different systems. And ideally, we want to spend the majority of our time in what's called a parasympathetic state. A lot of people refer to parasympathetic as rest and digest, and sympathetic as fight or flight. So sympathetic does serve a purpose. And if you're truly in a threatening situation, then you want to activate the sympathetic nervous system. It's going to automatically happen for you. But you want to have the advantages of having increased blood pressure, increased strength, increased focus to be able to handle that threat. The challenge is today is the vast majority of time for the vast majority of us, we're not going to be in a situation where we're going to need to access those sympathetic hormones, at least not on a regular basis. At least we hope not, okay? For the vast majority of people that are in safe situations, you're not going to have to access that. The challenge is that we can tap into our sympathetic nervous system just by our thoughts. We can worry and be fearful when we watch the news that the gas prices are going to be so high, I'm not going to be able to afford my rent or my mortgage, and I'm going to end up on the street. And we start to run these scenarios in our head, and it stimulates this sympathetic response. And we can, over time, end up in a sympathetic dominant situation. Or Irvin Kaur, who is a neurophysiologist, did over 40 years of research on the spine. He found that simply if the spine is shifted out of alignment, or if it's restricted in its motion, it activates the increased sympathetic tone of our nervous system, and again, moves us into a sympathetic dominant state. Now here's a list of just some of the symptoms that can start to show up when we're spend too long in a sympathetic dominant state. Because you want to think about that as being kind of like revving your gas pedal. You're pushing on the gas pedal as hard as you can, going as fast as you can, revving your engine. That might be okay for certain situations. Maybe you're pulling out to pass another car, but you won't want to spend all the time there, right? So if our body's in this sympathetic dominant state, is working really hard and is shutting down certain systems to get more energy to do these other things. So if we spend too long, there are a lot of things we can start to get: some shoulder and neck tightness, headaches, migraines, high blood pressure. Your high blood pressure is actually going to reset to a higher level because it's always prepared for a fight. Thyroid problems because our hormones are thrown off. Inflammation, again, because we're in this constant state of revving up, so to speak. Frequent colds and flus. Why? Because we're decreasing our immune response, because we don't care about our immune system to fight off a cold or a flu or a virus the next week or two. We're only worried about right now. At least that's the way that your nervous system's looking. So it's going to decrease your immune system. You're more likely to get cancer as well as a result of that. Digestive upsets, IBS, allergies, immune system problems, or I should say gut problems. Sensitivity to light and noise, anxiety, and depression, again, because your hormones are all thrown off. Again, just think about revving that engine all the time is going to throw the hormones off. Increased blood clotting risk, gallbladder problems, hormonal imbalances, chronically fatigued, again, because you're wasting all this energy. So over time, we start to develop these symptoms, and then what do? We go to our doctor and say, oh, you've got a thyroid problem. Here's a thyroid medication, or we're going to do surgery and remove your thyroid. Or you've got a hormonal problem, here's these drugs to balance out your hormones. When reality is, you're not addressing the cause of the problem. So there's a lot of different things here. Again, it's multifactorial. So number one, chiropractic is one of the best things you can do. Not to treat these symptoms, but to return your body to more of a parasympathetic state. But you're probably, for most people, you're also going to want to invest some time in mindfulness activities. That could be breathing activities. Simply just taking time to breathe every day, a minute in the morning, a minute midday, a minute in the middle of the afternoon, 5 or 6 times per day, just taking 1 minute each of those times and doing some deep breathing, 5 seconds in, 5 seconds out, slow your breathing down. That's going to start to reverse this process, right? Could be meditation, it could be visualization. There's all sorts of mindfulness activities, there's all sorts of mindfulness apps. But you're going to want to, in my opinion, invest some time in those activities. But this is a huge problem, and it leads to all these different symptoms. And the problem is that, again, medically, we treat the symptoms, the end results, rather than addressing the cause of the problem. So if you think you're in that sympathetic dominant state, again, you want more help with that, please let us know.